I've been asked 7 or 8 times how I come up with some of the components on my dishes. The last one sparked a lot of DMs wanting to know how I made the potato pavé. You know, pavé is a French word, cobblestone block. It's usually layered. And here we go. Here's how we do it. So what we're going to need is potatoes. We're going to need a little bit of cream, salt and pepper. We need a bowl. So when our potatoes are sliced, they go into the bowl nice and clean. We're also going to need a loaf pan. Something with high sides so we can create the height that we need for the potato. We need a piece of parchment so we can line the mold with. And we can also use the sides as handles to pull the potato out when it's finished. We're going to need some fresh thyme, some fresh chives, butter, garlic, oil, and some cooking spray. Okay, here we go. So one thing I've learned throughout my time is trying to keep your space neat and clean. And always we're trying to figure out ways to combat that. We start with peeling the potato. And if you notice, I peel on a piece of paper towel, a piece of parchment, a piece of plastic wrap. And this allows us to quickly dispose of the compost or trash that we create. Potatoes I use are a russet potato. I like the russet because they're starchy and they stick well together when the finished product is baked. So we peel our potatoes like so. Make sure we get all the peel off. You know, if you have something like that, just pull it out. Just pull it out with the eye remover. And that can go in your compost bin to be composted. So next we take our bowl, we take a little bit of heavy cream, pour the cream inside the bowl. You don't want to use too much of this. You want to keep it, you know, less waste the better. I like to season this, a little kosher salt, a little fresh cracked pepper. I like to use a melange of peppers. I think they have a better value of taste overall, and that's the main thing, is how do you get the most amount of flavor inside your dish with each component. So we want to slice our potatoes. Now we can slice them like this, lengthwise, or we can slice them horizontal. I like to slice them horizontal because you get more coverage. You just slice over the bowl, and I'll slice one over here so you can see the thickness. I like to go about this thick. Any thinner, you turn into mush, and any thicker, I don't think the layers stick together well. And we just kind of get these potatoes into the bowl, into the cream, like so. And then you just want to make sure that your potatoes are covered so they don't oxidize and turn brown. And for demonstration purposes, we will, I'll slice this a little bit. Look at this. You want to watch your fingers as well. If you have a cut glove, use a cut glove. If you don't, you can use the guard. I use this machine quite often, so I know the threshold. All right, so potatoes are in the cream. Now you have time to work with this. They won't turn brown on you, and then you can get your other prep ready. So I start with the loaf pan, place it down, get my cooking spray. I just use a regular olive oil. You can use a canola or whatever you want. You can actually brush this with butter as well. I don't think the butter adds any additional flavor to it other than crisping the bottom, which we're going to achieve in a pan afterwards. Okay, so these are your handles. You want to make sure you have handles, and your pan looks like this, right? So we know that the parchment is stuck to the pan because you can see the outline of the grease, and that's going to be good. So I always start with my first layer. I always season the bottom of the pan. Fresh cracked pepper on the bottom of the pan. And we start our layering process. You want to overlap slightly so that the potatoes and the starch all connect to each other. If you don't overlap them and you leave them separated, you won't get a solid brick, and we'll show you what that looks like in a little bit. So I usually go 2 layers high, and then we'll start with the seasoning process. Now you want to season the layers as you go, because throughout this potato, as it cooks, that flavor is gonna run through the potato. So like so, you know, keep your hands clean, keep your station clean. You know, we salt, another layer of salt. And you don't have to heavy salt, you don't have to heavy pepper. You just need to get some seasoning throughout these layers, because there's another seasoning process. As we cook, we're constantly building flavors. We're constantly building stuff within the pans, within the ingredients we use, a little fresh thyme, and we save the sprigs. Sprigs go onto the plate next to me. A little more thyme. In the thyme we don't have to chop. We can keep this, as long as we get the leaves and not the stems in here, you don't have to chop the thyme. Now we go with another layer. And I usually build this about halfway up. And I keep going. And as I'm placing the potatoes down, I'm giving them a little press to make sure they're seated well. And you can feel they almost stick together. After you let them sit for a moment, they're actually stuck to each other, which is what you're looking for. And you know, usually to fill this pan, it's usually about 4 potatoes. For this demonstration, I just did 2. I will finish this a little bit later because I have another demo later today. All right, so when you keep doing this, little pepper, little salt. Obviously, you're washing your hands are clean, you know. This is gonna be cooked, so you don't have to worry about glove usage. It is not a ready-to-eat product. Okay, that goes down, and so on. You build this layer up, and then what I like to do is I like to spray the top. I fold these down on each other. I put another pan on top, and I put some beans, or I put some weights, or I put some rice, just like you were gonna blind bake a pie shell. And this goes in the oven at 350 for about 45 minutes to an hour, and then you need to let it cool completely before you touch it. So these handles come out, potato goes down, you can take the potato off, I can go to the dish room or to your sink. So now you can see that the potato is completely encased together. Okay. What we're gonna do now is, this is where you need to think about presentation. So we clean up the edges, right? For home use, I'd use the edges. In a restaurant setting, we always clean up the edges. You know, we're always looking for that perfection. That can go to staff mail, or you can eat it as you cut. And we look at size, portion, plating. You could take this and you could do a long, lengthy cut. You could take this a little bit thicker and do a square. Remember, the pave is cobblestone block. It could be rectangle, it could be square. It's layers, several layers high. This time we went a little bit more than several. We probably did about 14 or 15 layers, because as it cooks, it compacts. And you can see the fresh herbs in there. You can see the salt and pepper in there. And once you have your portions or your pieces done, you can move on to the actual cooking. And a lot of people, they take this process and they kind of take it out of the oven, they cool it down, or they get it room temperature, and then, you know, it goes out to the restaurant or it gets served. But we miss a major step in our ability to add more flavor to this dish. So with my induction cooker, I'm gonna put it on. I'm gonna start with a low temperature at 4. We're gonna use just some regular oil, regular canola oil in the pan. Let this get hot. I love to use these little offset spatulas. This is a non-stick pan. This is a metal spatula. I'm going to be very, very careful not to scratch my non-stick. If you can find a plastic one or a rubber one, they work okay, but they're not as good as the metal one. I do use Evolve Culinary. Very good products, fairly cheap to buy. Right, as this gets hot, remember we don't need to cook everything on high. See, a lot of people, they throw the gas on high, they throw the induction on high, and then they got this just massive mess of burnt and can't reuse. So use a moderate heat. Throw this piece down. We'll just cook one piece today for a demonstration. You know, constantly cleaning the surface area because we're gonna. You know, as neat as clean as you can keep your area, the better. It's good for, you know, obviously your boss or your house. You know, if you can hear that, that's starting to sizzle now. You know, we don't want to rush this process. We want to make sure we create a nice crust on the bottom. And then we have our ingredients we're going to use. We have butter, we have some thyme, and we have garlic. I left the garlic in the peel. I took that first outer layer skin off that usually comes off as you break the garlic. If you don't leave the skin on, what happens is the garlic burns within the butter, and you have this burnt garlic flavor throughout your dish. And if you leave the peels on, you have more time to work with your garlic. You're not going to serve this. This is just a seasoning aspect of our dish. So we're going to look. We're cooking well. You know, everything's going good. You know, our pan's not too high. You don't see this like outside burning. You can tell when your pan's too high. The outer sides will start to really burn and not look good. And this is more of a finishing preparation. So you do the potatoes, and then you can keep these on your line. You can cut and portion them, and as orders come in, orders come through. You know, you have 2 orders of a potato pave. You put 2 orders on, and you repeat this process. Butter, thyme, garlic inside the pan. When you get there, we just constantly want to check and look. Give you guys just a piece come off. Sneak peek of what we're looking for. Want to go a little bit further with that before we turn it. Turn, get the other side. So we turn our butter down. We'll throw our butter in. We'll throw our garlic. We'll throw our thyme. The same process you would do for steak or for one baste. You can smell the garlic coming through. You can smell the thyme as the butter cooks. You always want to see these suds or bubbles when you're doing this method. That means your pan is at the right temperature. You're achieving the right heat. And then we are going to go off. And we always, when we present, we always present on a paper towel. And the paper towel just ensures that, you know, when we put this on a plate, the plate is not going to have a grease slick. Just move this induction rail over. Pull our cutting board back. We have our chives. Usually the garnish station will have all this stuff done. When you pass this to the expo, you know, you'll obviously garnish it up. Okay. And then you bring your plate in. Potato goes down. Clean up your areas. And then you have your potato pave. Hope this helped. Looking forward to do a couple more of these as the comments come in and the questions come in.